Alright guys, set SUMARI Dark Arts video 124. It's been a long time, I know, a very long time. Many things have happened in the world. We've had viruses, we've had wars, we've had protests. We've had it all in this section of our physical system. But yeah, a lot of things have changed, a lot of things have been going on for a lot of people, pretty much everyone. But, I was sitting home today, killing time before going out, and I said, you know what? What haven't I done in a long time? And I thought, oh yeah, that's right, a video. So let's just jump right into it, guys. Share some experiences with you all. I hope all of you have maintained on your journeys with your training. Hope none of you have fallen off. It may be new people who are just starting and those who have been on it for a while. But yeah, let's just hop right into it. So I'm going to share two stories for you. One from my private life that just happened quite recently, actually. And the other one, well, obviously they're both from my private life, but one is someone passing away. Two story of two stories. One dealing with a neighbor who passed away, and then a family member that passed away the day after Christmas. So, and the purpose of this story is to give you guys some insight into how your abilities may, well, they develop differently for everyone, right? But sometimes I think a lot of individuals tend to be focused on the Hollywood scenario, or the typical things that we see in film and sci-fi or whatever. And we have this preconceived idea of how it's supposed to feel or how it's supposed to work, pretty much. But so here's the first one. So I moved into this new building not too long ago, and upon my first day moving, I met this lady who was next door, a very nice elderly woman. I don't know how old she was. She looked like she could have been maybe in her 80s, I guess, 70s or 80s, but I couldn't really tell. We met briefly. So I introduced myself. I just said hello. I said, hello, my name is whatever. Nice to meet you. And she said, yeah, nice to meet you too. And that was it. It was a very brief interaction. There's nothing to it. She seemed nice from a few seconds we met. And I went on about my day, and so was she. So you fast forward a couple of months later. I never seen her, and that's pretty much normal in Japan. You don't really see your neighbors in buildings. You don't really hear them either. Sometimes you do, but in some apartment complexes, it's pretty much like people tend to want to avoid one another also. So if you're coming out your door, they hear you and they're coming out at the same time, they'll pretty much just wait till you go in. And a lot of people do that to avoid having to be stuck in the elevator for uncomfortable conversations and things like that. So what happened was, you skip forward a few months later, and one day I came home and I stopped. As I was putting my key into my door, I looked over her door. But the moment right before reaching my door, there was a very distinct feeling. And I looked at her door and I said, I think she's dead. And, for me, this is very normal. But for others, it may be a bit jarring sometimes to hear things like that. And I wasn't saying it with any ill intent or anything. It was just, that's what it was. That was the feeling I had. That it was a feeling of, it's hard to explain, right, in verbal terms, but it was a type of feeling of no feeling, pretty much, as if something was absent in that area where she's living at. But anyway, so I went about my day. So you jump forward, a few days have passed, a week has passed. A strange smell started to develop in my apartment as I would enter. And I didn't think nothing of it, new building, I don't know, maybe this is just the way. I honestly thought that this was the way the apartment smelled. It wasn't a bad smell, it was just a distinct smell, and I thought, well, I don't know, maybe it's the wood or something. Like I said, it wasn't to the point of feeling unbearable, but it was just a very unique smell that I never smelled before. And I just assumed that perhaps it was something to do with the nature of being in a new apartment, wood, things of that nature. So, as the first week passes, the second week passes, I start to notice small flies in my apartment. Now, this once again, these weren't flies to the point where it was like, oh my God, what's going on here? It was more in terms of, remember, I have a snake. Yes, guys, Sumari is still alive as well. But yeah, I started trying to run my mind through all these scenarios. Well, maybe it's because I'm in a new apartment, it's the wood smell. Then when the very small flies started to come around, I thought, well, maybe it's just, I'm in this new apartment building and maybe it's something to do with the trees downstairs or trees are outside or anything like that. And then I have a snake. Maybe the snake is bringing them in, it's attracting them somehow. But like I said, they weren't flies. They weren't big flies. They were very small, almost similar to gnats. And I thought, well, what's going on here? But okay. So as the weeks pass, once again, didn't think nothing much of it. But the smell was starting to increase. And then one day I came home on another night and I was putting my key in the door and I had the same feeling again, but heavily this time. And I looked at her door and it was a feeling as if, I don't want to say it was like a black hole, but it was a type of just devoid of energy coming from the apartment, which I didn't feel before. I'm assuming when she was alive, but this time it felt like just a lack of energy or something just not being there. So I said, I looked at her door and I said, I think most definitely she has passed away in there. Now, I don't want to call the building manager because it could be a number of things. I don't want them to come knocking on the door, the woman's alive, and now I'm looking like a troublemaker or anything like that. So I said, okay, well, what I'll do is I give another couple of days, and if the smell persists and these flies persist, then I'll just contact the building manager and, ask him at least to just do a wellness check on her because she was elderly, I guess. And, things happen. So once I decided that, we're going into the next morning. Waking up, getting ready for work. I had to go to work. I don't remember around that time. I think it was about 2 o'clock or something. At this point, it's around 10. So I'm eating breakfast and working out at the same time. And I hear a knock on the door. Boom, boom, boom. And I don't answer my door. If I'm not ordering anything, first thing I do is I check the phone. No one's calling me. I'm not answering. But then the knock persisted. And I thought, so I got up and went and checked the peephole. And when I looked at the hole, the first thing I saw were like 4 police officers. And then behind them, there was some fire department people. And I thought, oh boy, okay, it's what I suspected. She's passed away. Now, I have nothing telling me this. I'm just basing it on the situation and what I'm feeling. And I knew what they wanted. They wanted to come through my apartment to go through her balcony, to go on my balcony to her balcony to get to her apartment, or the alternative would be to break the door down. And I'm assuming that they did not want to do that to cause any, you know, confusion, fear, people, oh, what's going on, all that type of stuff. And it's just not a good look, them bashing in the door and then pulling out someone who's passed away. So I guess they wanted to be as discreet as possible. So they knock on the door, and remember I had to go to work, so I was like, I don't know, man, it was looked like a full power team outside, like a full team of rescuers. And I thought, oh man, like I don't want to have to deal with this right now because I got to go to work and I don't know how long it would take. So I sat back down, started eating breakfast again, and he knocked on the door again. And then I thought about it deeply and I said, most definitely this is the only thing it could be. This is what it is because I don't hear any fire alarm. I just knew, and it could have been a number of many things. Maybe the building was on fire, which I doubt because there were no sirens going off. And I think they would have been a bit more frantic if there was a fire. So I pretty much knew what it was through my intuitive feeling. And I thought, all right, I guess I got to deal with this. So I open the door and we're speaking in Japanese. Everyone's looking at me. And of course, they're shocked to see a foreigner. And I pretty much said to them, like, what happened? And they said, oh, this is all in Japanese, but they're pretty much like, oh, the next door neighbor, maybe she's sick. Now, you translate that into American terms, and it pretty much means someone's passed away. Because what does that mean? Maybe she's sick. So anyway, so I go, okay, you want to come in? So they came in, and it was a whole thing. So I didn't deal with the police at all, but it was mostly the fire department. The police kind of stayed back. Fire department came in. They had to move my stuff around, get to the balcony, and then it was kind of funny because I lived pretty high up, and then they started to not have an argument, but there was something going on the balcony, a dispute about who was going to climb over to the other side. They were like, "Oh, but it's too high up," and "Oh, what if I fall?" And I'm just listening to all this. I'm like, it's a bit entertaining in contrast to what the situation was applied to. But so I thought, okay, so they put up this kind of like shield where I couldn't really see what was happening, which was a bit annoying because I wanted to see what was going on. But yeah, I could see a little bit, and they put up this shield to block and my window, what they were doing out there. But they were basically climbing over, and I'm not sure if they had to break her balcony window or not. I'm assuming maybe they had to, unless she left it open. I don't know because I couldn't see what was going on because it's at an angle, and you have to be over there to see it. So they finally get in, and they do what they have to do. So they're in there for a while, and I'm peeping through my peephole. Once they said thank you and they left me alone, left my apartment, I knew they were going to take this woman out. So at some point, they do remove her body, and it was very small. It was surprising. It was a very, very small body on a type of, I don't know, they were just taking her out on something, and she was covered on a stretcher. And she was covered by a white sheet, or I couldn't tell if it was what it was. It just seemed like a white sheet she was covered by, but she looked very, very small. It was a very small silhouette on the stretcher. And as they were doing that, and I was expecting them to do that, and I caught it, I did a small prayer for her from behind my door, but I was praying, saying a prayer to her, pretty much, and I had some words to say on her behalf. So that was over, and I ended up going to work. That was the end of that. When I came home that night, I stopped in front of her door and I did another small prayer for her. In other words, saying, thank you for being a good neighbor, even though we met once, and, peace be with you. You've moved on, and, welcome to the real reality where the real action starts. And wherever she's going to, whatever reality she finds herself in. But so that happened, and so you fast forward a few days later, not that long after. I don't remember if it was 2 or 3 days after. I can't remember exactly, but it was not that long after that happened. And I'm getting ready to go out for the night, so I'm getting ready to leave, and suddenly, all the lights in my apartment pretty much turn off at the same time. And I'm thinking, oh, okay. And this was around, I would say, like 8 or 9. I can't remember what time it was. But then all of the lights turned back on, and all of them were flashing, like off and on, as if someone was turning a light switch off and on, like that. And they were flashing off and on. I thought, okay, interesting. And it was basically her in some way saying thank you. Thank you for letting them into your apartment to get to my apartment. Thank you for not letting them have to smash down my door. And I'm sorry for inconveniencing you. And that's what it was. Now, it happened that one time only, and it never happened again in my apartment with the lights doing that. So make of it what you will. I know what it was, but everyone has their own thoughts and speculations of what it could have been. So now we fast forward to, that was years ago, or the last year? I can't remember. It was a year ago, maybe 2 years. I can't remember right now. I think it was last year. Fast forward. So we're getting close to Christmas, and I remember speaking to my mother on the phone, and I had this feeling, and I said, man, hey Ma, I hope everyone's okay for Christmas, because you know that usually around Christmas time and New Year's, a lot of people don't make it in this life, and things happen, unfortunately. So I hope everyone in our family, immediate family and friends, will be okay. So the day before Christmas. Actually, Christmas for me, Christmas Eve for her, because we're on a time difference, right? Excuse me. So I go out for the night, doing my thing, and suddenly I get a message from my mother. This is the day after Christmas, I believe. Yeah. And she's basically said that hey, your uncle's dead. And I thought, whoa. Now, me and my uncle, we had a very close relationship, especially when I was growing up. And he played a very big, integral part of my life, as far as just life lessons and, being strong and being a man and things like that of that nature, not being weak, which I've had those life lessons from all my family members, but he was one of the key players in that, as well as others. And I said, okay. Now, here's the thing. Here comes the interesting part of this story for this second half. That day, now, there's going to be a few different components to this story that all connect. So you figure around my time, I'm getting ready for work that day, and it had to be around, from the time I started, just say around maybe 2, and then I was washing my hair, and that's maybe around 3 or something like that. But anyway, if you do the time difference, you figure 3 p.m. in Japan would basically be 3, 2, 1 a.m. in the morning. So my mother told me when she went to work that she went to work around 11 or something like that. He was okay and he was fine. Other family members were home, and after that, he was still fine. But somewhere between the time they went to bed and it's all factoring into around the same time, matching up with my time in Japan, with the time difference. And for me, I was washing my hair. I started hearing this banging sound. So I was like, what the hell is that? I turned off the shower and I was listening. I didn't hear anything. And then I went back to washing my hair. So I got soap, I got conditioner, I got all this stuff going on. And I had this strange feeling. Now, the feeling was the same feeling that I had when the lady passed away, and also the lady next door neighbor passed away, and when the lights were flashing. Oh yeah, I didn't mention that part. When the lights were flashing at that time, there was a strong sense of something being in the apartment with me. I felt it. It was as if, you all know, like someone or something standing right there, and it was there. So I knew what it was when it was happening. Like I said, none of this stuff is terrifying for me because it's me. And it's just what it is. It's a part of reality. But so it was the same feeling. And I remember I came out the shower, hair's wet, shampoo, conditioner running all down my back, looking crazy. And something was in the room with me, like in the shower. I felt it. It was there again. And the moment I felt it, I thought, man, whatever it is or whoever it is, it's here right now. And it's not the lady next door, because that happened a long time ago. And like I said, we weren't friends. We were just neighbors. I met her once. She would have no reason to want to come to my. I mean, this woman has moved on and she's not a woman anymore. She's back to her multidimensional self, and she's living the rest of her eternal life in non-physical reality. So no real connection to ever want to come back here to me. So the first thing I thought was, oh man, I think someone in the family has passed away. Oh, and you don't want to think about that stuff, but it's just the first thought that came in. It's just like someone's died. Don't know who. I hope not. Hope is just a feeling that's passing. But I didn't have real time to entertain it because, as I said, I had shampoo and conditioner in my hair. I had to get out the house like literally within like 15 minutes. I had to wrap all this up. So I was on the clock, and but I knew what the feeling was. And it's one of those things where you just don't want to think about it, because if it's true, then that means someone has passed away. So I just tried to downplay it. I was like, all right, whatever. I got to get ready for work. Jump forward back again. Then I'm out for the night, and I get the message from my mom. Now, you bring the time into consideration, and I had that around my time. Then I started hearing all these separate stories from other people who were back home. And For example, one person said that my mother said she was at her desk before she got the phone call from my brother saying that they found him on the bathroom floor, and that my mother was saying that leading up to that, she had this really strong, heavy feeling that something bad happened. This is before she got the phone call. You fast forward to other family members, they say that they were all sitting watching TV around a certain time, around the time that was happening. All the lights turned on in their apartment. Just suddenly everything flashed on, which has never happened before. The lights just bam, turned on the whole apartment. And it freaked everybody out, and they were like, "Oh man, what is this, a ghost?" But they didn't know what was going on either. And you have another person, where my father had said at the around the same time, these three birds, which never happened, just he opened the door, and these three birds flew into the house, and like landed on the sofa and were watching him for a bit. And he felt something strange, and they flew out. And he said that has never happened to him ever before. And this is before he found out. But all this was happening around the same time and same time frame with all this happening. So yeah, that's as I've said, none of this is real or a shock for me. Of course, losing a family member in this physical reality is never good, and it's a time of grieving. But I figured that I need to share this story with everyone because we've all heard the stories. People all talk about it. When someone passes away, a cuckoo clock goes off, a digital clock stops, or lights turn off, lights turn on. We've all heard from for decades, for such a long time, everyone giving these different accounts of what happens when a loved one passes. The different ways that when people pass away, they're not physical anymore, obviously. So they now have a way to maneuver. Time is not of a difference anymore. Time doesn't matter, and they can pretty much go wherever they want. The only thing is that they don't really know how to reach out. I mean, you can't just fully manifest themselves, although on some occasions they can. But that takes a lot of energy, and a lot of individuals who, especially if they were never deeply into that type of stuff, that's a whole nother conversation. But yeah, so pretty much they won't know or have the ability to do any of that, especially, I mean, this is all new to them. They're not physical anymore, they're a non-physical body. But however, their thoughts do project them to whatever they're thinking about. So if they're thinking about family, their essence takes them to wherever they are focusing on, at least in that very beginning. And it seems to be that's a constant throughout many cultures and countries when people pass away, have the same similarities. But yeah, so that's pretty much it, to start this first video out. I'm not going to go crazy. There's a lot more interesting things to share, but the theme of the theme of this video is to basically trust your instincts and trust your feelings and your intuitions. Never let anyone deny the reality of your own subjective experience. You know what you feel, you know what you felt. You'll get people come in and tell you, well, that was just a coincidence, and you're thinking too much about it, and none of that stuff is real. Listen, don't listen to those people. They know nothing. What do they know? They are just giving you an opinion. That's just their opinion. But we all have our own subjective experience, and you have to follow that. So whatever it is, don't deny it. If you felt it, if you know it's real, then it's real. You don't have to ask anyone to verify for you. No one has to, confirm your own experiences. If you felt it, if it happened to you, it was real. That's it. Don't double, you know, don't, how do I say? Yeah, just don't question yourself, Don't deny your own experiences, because what happens is, I've had some people talk to me recently, and they say, for example, why can't I access any of this stuff? Why can't I do any of these things? And the first thing I ask, well, do you believe in any of it? And they're like, well, I don't know. Maybe it's not, I don't really think so. I don't think it's possible. I just want to do it. I was like, well, there you go. That's your answer. You don't really believe in it, but then you want to have something happen. And as we all know, by this point, you should know, belief is a large part of all of this. You have to believe to see or to experience. You don't believe it, it's just not going to happen. It's because when you believe in things, when you believe in your vulnerabilities, your talents, it activates certain mechanisms within yourself that triggers other things, and it expands the probability for these things to happen. It's already inside of us. Like, we don't have to really do anything. We don't have to really do anything. There's no, oh, do this special technique, do that, eat these herbs. All of that is just, it's theatrics. And we tend to get caught up in the theatrics of the human experience. So all you have to do is believe in your abilities, believe in yourself, believe it's possible to achieve these things. And that alone activates the, how do I say, it activates things within you that will bring it closer to being a reality, because it is a reality. It's just a matter of you believe it's possible, and it is possible. But it's like a muscle, right? Think, for example, like a muscle. If you want a six pack, if you want to have a six pack, if you want to have a nice body or nice abs or hips or whatever, it's already there. Like the DNA blueprint to have a six pack, the DNA blueprint to have a nice, nice hips, nice legs, chest, arms, it's already there. Now you look at yourself in the mirror, you won't see that if you're not training, if you're eating unhealthy, a lot of junk food, you just live a very slothful type life. You won't see any of that. But it's there. It's there underneath the essence of what you are. Now, once you start dieting, you start training, you start going running, you do all these things, what happens? After a few months, it starts to appear. Now, where was it before that? It was always there within you. You just had to bring it out of you by doing certain things. And you could consider that as a type of, for people who lean more to a form of magical thinking, think of it as a magical ritual. When you want to improve your body, excuse me, when you want to improve your body and you want to have a certain look that you're trying to get, you have to perform a ritual. What is the ritual? Well, the ritual is start training, start running, start walking, eat healthy, sleep earlier, drink water, change your diet, and leave a lot of the unnecessary junk food alone, if not completely. All of this could be considered, if you want to look at it from a magical perspective, that is a ritual in itself. It's the same with anything. If you want to accomplish something, you have to perform the ritual. Now, I know a lot of people don't like the word magic or rituals because they tend to they think that leads towards a more satanic or demonic thing, but that's all just belief, guys. It's all about belief. Everything we deal with, we live in a system of belief. And in order to achieve certain things, you have to work within a system sometimes. Now, other individuals, I don't want to think in terms of levels, but there are other individuals who don't need any of that. You want something, you achieve it, you do the things. They don't see it as I have to do A, B, and C as a ritual. This is what I want and I'm going to get it. And they naturally just go through the routine of whatever it has to be to achieve that. But if you want to make things more interesting, if you want to believe in magic, if you want to believe in rituals, if you want to believe in religion, use it to your advantage. It's all about what you want to do and what's going to work for you. I'm just saying that for those of you who want to go to a much more potent, effective level, you don't really need any of those systems. You just have to know what you are, because what you are is basically all of that in one package, and you can manifest it when you want. But that's another topic for another time. Like I said, I don't want to make this video long. Looks like it's coming up on 30 minutes. This is just a warm-up to get things going again. I know I've been gone for a long time, and yeah, hit me up in the comments, guys. Make your comments down below. What do you want to hear about? If there's something you want to discuss, just post it down below and let's get it going, man. It's 2026. We're back in, and I feel like even though I was gone for a long time, many of you have contacted me over the years. I apologize. I was just going through my own training and life, and now's the time to come back. 2026. Why not now? Now's a better time than ever. And I have a lot of new things to share with you guys, and perspectives and experiences to really help all of you grow on your journeys. And yeah, there's a lot of new interesting things in the toolbox to play with. So have a good night, everyone. Happy New Year to everybody. And yeah, see you all next time. Later.